It's Chechnya. Um, when you say the rest of Russia, prior to going to Chechnya, I was in the city of Kazan, which is the capital of Tatarstan, and Tatarstan is um, a Muslim majority republic with the Russian Federation that enjoys um, significant autonomy. Beautiful city, Muslims and Christians peacefully coexisting. Sort of a perfect blend of Russian society. He says Dagestan would have been nice. We were in Dagestan. We drove through Dagestan, and when we entered Dagestan, the people have to understand there's still a Islamic extremist element in some of these areas, and Dagestan's one of them. And you'll read about a couple times a year where there's a shootout in the village where the Russian police surround a terrorist group and there's a fight and all this kind of stuff. So entering Dagestan, you have to go through a checkpoint, and boy, these people were just like, what the hell are Americans doing at the border of Dagestan? And Alexander's trying to make his phone call. These guys are like, that ain't going to work here. What the hell are Americans doing at the border of Dagestan? And Vika and I got taken out of the car and we got paraded across the road into an office. And I told Vika, I said, well, now I think we know what Tsar Nicholas II and his family felt like right before they got shot, because this were just guys with machine guns walking all around, and we're just like, okay, it wasn't that bad. They just simply had questions.
I don't know who they're dealing with.
They had questions, and they let us go with no issue. But I only mentioned that because somebody said Dagestan. Look, Tatarstan was beautiful. Kazan was beautiful, but the difference was Kazan was never destroyed in the 20th century. Kazan suffered some damage during the Civil War, but World War II didn't touch it. And so, for instance, the Kazan Kremlin, beautiful ancient fortress, dominates the city, and it goes back to ancient times. You get into Chechnya, and Grozny, the capital of Chechnya, in 2002 was considered the most destroyed city in the world, and it was flattened. If you take a look at the photographs of Grozny during that time, it's comparable to the damage that was done in Stalingrad, or even worse. But that wasn't the city we entered. The city we entered was completely rebuilt. I'm talking about Las Vegas style skylines, lights, flash, the whole thing. Beautiful boulevards, and Christians and Muslims living side by side peacefully. And I emphasize the word peacefully because this was where the fighting was. This was the Chechen War. This was where Muslims and Christians were going at it toe to toe. And Russia and Chechnya, Putin and Akhmat Kadyrov, the father of Ramzan Kadyrov, made peace. And as a result, Chechnya has totally rebuilt itself today. And the Chechens are proud members of the Russian Federation. So it was something else. The night, one night we drove out, again, the phone, but the phone call was made, and suddenly this guy shows up. It would be the equivalent if Elvis Presley was still alive and still in his prime, that kind of star. Mm-hmm. So the singer shows up, and he is literally the superstar of Chechnya. He is the #1 pop star in all of Chechnya, and everybody knows him. And he drives up, and he and his buddy are going to take us to this village. It turns out the village we were taken to, outside of Grozny, was the center of anti-Russian Chechen resistance during the war. This was the heart of the resistance, and there was heavy fighting. Alleged atrocities on both sides were committed here. And I'm just like, why are you guys doing this, man? We don't want to tickle the beast. Yeah, Grozny looks great, but now you're going to take me over here and you're going to just put these 2 Americans up to be butchered. Couldn't be further from the truth. This was a place this guy had built. It was a getaway for families. No alcohol. Little cabins set off in a pond area. You have swans, you have rabbits, you have raccoons, wildlife there, peacocks. The family can get a cabin. They'll cook you a meal. You can relax. If you want to spend the night, they have places where families can sleep, and they just all hang out there. And this guy's a superstar. As we're walking along, people are coming up and asking him if he'll come and meet this person, meet that person. But then they also respected him. You'd be like, no, we're here, and they say, oh yes, okay, so we'll get you next time around. But it was just, it shows the extent to which Chechnya has healed itself from this, from the horrors of this conflict. And I mean, it is different. I saw a comment down there that said it is different from Russia. It is different from Russia. First of all, Chechnya, they pay minimal taxes to Moscow. So the money they get, and they do have oil business, the money they get gets invested back into Chechnya, which is one of the reasons why they could rebuild. But this was part of the peace plan, was to basically allow the Chechens who wanted, half this war was about independence. They wanted independence. Well, how do you make Chechnya part of the Russian Federation, but you feed the sense of independent character and you make it an autonomous republic? And they did it, and it's working. Half these guys, Vika almost got married in Chechnya. I mean, it was touch and go there for a minute. She, it was one of the weirdest days of my life. I mean, one of the weirdest days of my life. I get up in the morning. This is after we went out to that wonderful little barbecue thing, and I didn't know what we have on the schedule again because Alex is making phone calls. And apparently we had something scheduled, but Ramzan Kadyrov decided that ain't going to be the plan. He wanted to meet me, but then Vladimir Putin flew in, and Ramzan had to go away. So Ramzan apparently every 5 minutes is on the phone changing the schedule to get things to treat Scott Ritter properly. I mean, it was surreal. But so I did an interview with Apti, gosh, horrible with last names, but Adurov. Apti Alamurti. Apti, I apologize. I like Apti. He's a frontline fighter right now in Donetsk with the Akhmat forces. But during the interview, I talked to him about where they got trained, and they have something called the Russian Spetsnaz Academy University, where they train these people. And I sort of half joked to him. He said, well, when you come, I'll show it to you. Oh yeah, I'd love that. Hey, yeah. Well, son of a bitch. I show up. The next thing you know, we're on a bus and we're at the Spetsnaz Academy. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. We're in the Spetsnaz Academy, the Special Forces Academy. And it wasn't just there. They then took us in and we did this ridiculous, no, this is different. This is different from the Academy.
Oh, we got to talk about this one too, right?
Yeah. The Academy, it started off with this wind tunnel, because I had joked with Opti. I said, well, if I'm allowed to do anything, I want to parachute. I want to jump out of airplanes with you boys. Well, they were never going to let a 61-year-old man jump out of an airplane. But they did take me to the wind tunnel where you practice aerodynamics, and they took Vika there, and so we did that.
Oh, that's what we were showing on Tuesday.
Yeah, with the face, because when you take 250 pounds worth of fat and you put it in a wind tunnel designed to float a 150-pound person, they have to crank up that. I mean, literally, you can see them. I'm there, and it's just like a lead weight. So they're in there. Turn it up, and they're cranking up this windmill, and I mean, my face is blowing up. I'm blowing up. It still wasn't powerful enough to get Mr. Fatso in the air. But Vika floated like a butterfly. She did a great job. But so that was cool. And then next thing you know, they take us to the rifle range. They go, want to shoot? Well, who the hell doesn't want to shoot? It's like, really? You're going to let us shoot weapons? So we got the pop off. They had 4 different kinds of handguns. We got to fire those. Got to fire the new AK. I think it's the 102 weapon with all the fancy stuff. Now I'm old school Marine, so the last time I fired a weapon like that, an assault weapon, I used iron sights, and I'm very used to iron sights, and I'm very used to the Marine sling. And if I had an M16, I would have gone up there and pop it. Well, they got a different kind of sling. That's okay. I can handle that. But they used this new optic system that's like a red dot. So when you look through it, wherever the red dot is where the bullet's supposed to hit, unless you've screwed up your alignment and all this kind of stuff. So it was all very uncomfortable to me. There's the instructor. They're training people. But so we got to shoot automatic weapons and pistols, and then got to shoot a machine gun. Vika did surprisingly well. With the rifle, every time she pulled the trigger, she hit a target. I'm a little worried about that. There it is, Fatso trying to float. Look at that. She's sinking like a dead. Now watch Vika. She's there. Well, they didn't show, but I mean, Vika, they take her all the way up to the top. Me, look at that face. But, a face only a mother could love, and even in this case, I don't think my mother would love that face. There's Vika float. Look, that's what happens when you do it right. See how excited she is?
Yeah, she looked great.
Yeah, then you take a look at me, and that's what happens when you do it wrong. And these boys just float. They're crazy. They're like a little Spider-Man.
Is this where the firing range was? I started to show this before. Is that the same place?
That's right next to there. There it is. There it is. Machine gun. Yep. I actually hit the target with that, so I'm not too bad. Standard methods. But anyways, it was just fun. So I'm thinking. Oh, then they took me out to a skeet range, and apparently I did very well. I hit 22 out of 25 targets. So they were impressed with that. And that's enough for a day. You're just sitting there going, wow. I got to float in the air. I got to shoot automatic weapons. Fun, fun, fun. We're driving back now. We're supposed to be going to our hotel, checking out of our hotel, and going up to. We're going to go into a hotel in the mountains. So they wanted to get us out of the city, and we could get up in the mountains, sort of like a cabin getaway in the Chechen mountains. Phone rings. That ain't going to happen. But no one's telling me anything. And we're driving. And we show up, and it's the headquarters of the Presidential Guard for Ramzan Kadyrov. There it is. And they have the whole Presidential Guard lined up in parade for me. This is fucking crazy. These are, excuse my language. I apologize for anybody who heard that, but it's crazy. These are the guys that captured Mariupol. These are heroes. These are hardened combat veterans, and they're lined up for me. And I got to inspect them. They introduced me to the battalion commanders. These brave guys. I mean, these are guys. This gentleman here is the colonel in charge, and he's telling me their story about, this guy was wounded 3 times. This guy was shot in the face. This guy was set on fire. This guy refused to be evacuated till all of his men. And they introduced me to one guy who had this grin on his face the whole time. He said, well, he used to be a lieutenant colonel. We had to demote him to major, but we also gave him a award for heroism. I'm like, well, okay, there's got to be a backstory here. And it was because he didn't know how to not attack. They would tell him, hold up. He's like, go forward, charging forward, attacking. And, that might be him right there. But, so they had to punish him. They gave him a medal. They made him a hero. But, and these boys are tough. These are physically fit beasts.
Now, if you weren't there, would they have all that equipment on them? A lot of these guys had cameras on their helmets and so forth. Was that all put together just for your visit, or they would?
Well, I mean, this is their standard. Tactical gear. This is what they wear when they go to war. So when they fall out, this is what they wear. So he's introducing me to this guy. I think this guy was shot 3 times. He may have been one of the guys that got caught on fire. But just these are real warriors. These are the guys who captured Mariupol. and they're getting ready to go back right now.
Did you find anything out about the Mariupol situation that you hadn't known before? Did they share stories with you?
Well, I mean, we knew that it was heavy fighting, and that they took me to the museum where they have where they have things that they captured from the Azov battalion, the Nazi unit, and they talk about the heavy fighting and the tenacity of the enemy. But I mean, pretty much. I mean, it's always good to get details. I mean, it's cool to get little inside stories and all that stuff. But the basic narrative remains the same: heavy fighting, but the Akhmat forces prevailed because of their courage, their heroism. These are guys. I say this as a Marine. These are guys that you would be proud to fight alongside.
Now, this is like 12 minutes long. I don't know if we're going to show all of it, but
no, we don't have to show the whole thing.
But I want to show, and maybe I can fast forward and find it. They reenact
like
the way they train.
Go back to him right here.
Which one?
This is Lord. This is the man.
He was talking. He was addressing the whole
3 guy.
Yeah,
the number 3 guy in Chechnya. I think his name is Mohammed Daudev, or some, again, bad with names. I apologize.
We give a little audio there to give a little flavor of it. Well, the thing you have to understand about this guy is he is the youngest ever hero of Russia. And that's their Medal of Honor. And he got that by literally chasing down terrorists in the woods by himself. He would literally run after them and kill them. He's the real deal. And the Chechen troops revere him. He's, sometimes you get fat. Is he talking to them about you right here? Is that
no? He's talking to them about their mission coming up.
Oh, okay.
About what they're going to do and what they're going to who they're going to be facing and what they have to accomplish. This is a pep talk. These guys are getting ready to deploy to war.
So that wasn't a show put on for you. That part of that's the kind of thing that might have happened. Here, so this is what I want to see. This is how they train, right?
Well, they did a practice assault thing, but sort of a demonstration of taking down. Here's the interesting thing. They're using that stuff's very loud. So they handed out hearing protection. You know what Chechen hearing protection is?
No, what?
Dude pulls out his pistol, takes out rounds, and you stick 9mm bullets in your ears. So you got bullets in your ears, and that's your hearing protection, and it's just wild. These are warriors.
I just saw a shot of Vika there. She's got the headphones on, blocking the hearing, and she's getting the footage with her phone like a good camera woman.
She was doing it right. But anyways, so this guy, when we finish, he invites us to the soccer match that night, and we go to the soccer match, and we're in the VIP seating with him. And at halftime, or they have a dinner, and so the table's laid out, and we're there, and so they started asking questions. Well, they were all under the impression that Vika was about 16 years old.
Really?
She's 30. So they were treating her as if she was my, minor daughter. And someone said, well, how old is your daughter? And I said, well, she's 30. Really? Is she married? I said, no, she's engaged. And they're like,
so behave yourself.
They said, well, no, they said, tell us about her fiance. I said, well, he's a good guy. He's a musician. He's a worker. He welds. And the number 4 guy in Chechnya has this look. I was like, not interesting. And so the Lord goes, why would you marry a musician when you could marry somebody who could hire you 100 musicians? And basically, he's just telling her all about, the life in Dubai and the house and this and the cars and everything. And of course, he's promising me that I too would have a house in Dubai and cars and all this stuff. And Sam, if you're listening, dude, it was close. But but it was hilarious because.
So they took it. Now I have some footage of you kicking us. You were talking about going to a soccer game. I thought it was an actual game, but looks like when there was.
No, this is in Sochi. This is in Sochi. That's a different. But to finish up with the Chechens, well, here I'll just make the goal show people that even a fat American former football player. Look at that
Whoa.
goal! I
Oh,
don't
he
think he
let
tried so
you
hard.
do that. Come on.
Yeah, I don't think he tried too hard. But the
Even
but
Ryan
yeah,
Milton tried harder to arm wrestle you than that guy tried to.
yeah. The anyways, they suddenly Lord comes down and he sort of pushes me out of the way. He sits down next to Vika. He calls his man over, and next thing you know, this giant bouquet of roses shows up, and he hands it to Vika, and it was just hilarious. It was soldiers' humor. They weren't serious, I don't think, about trying to marry her, but
Soldiers' humor.
they kept they kept the game, the ploy going up the whole night. It was funny. Vika really enjoyed the attention, and it was pretty cool to be hanging out with this guy because he was, when you saw him speak before the troops, he's a serious dude. But he has a heart of gold, like all Chechens. I mean, all Chechens, they basically just good people. Wouldn't want them on the wrong side. I wouldn't want to get them on the wrong side though, because they take the business of war seriously. They're very hard fighters, and these boys that are getting ready to go to Ukraine, I wouldn't want to be on the opposite side.
All right, let's take some more questions. Stephen Marks from London. What are your thoughts on the Taliban and Iran border conflict? It seems to be over water disputes. If war breaks out, who would win?
Well, if war breaks out, I would imagine it would be a limited scope war. You're not going to get the Iranians driving and trying to capture Kabul. I think the Iranians have studied enough history to know that that doesn't work out too well. But the Iranians would be able to assert themselves decisively on the border and take control of whatever situation emerged. It is about water. Water, I think we're going to see over and over in that region of the world and elsewhere, that future wars will be fought over water, which is going to become one of the most precious resources out there. When people don't have water, they die. And when societies, when farming communities don't have access to water, their crops go away. If you don't have access to water, your hygiene deteriorates, disease becomes rampant. You die of thirst. So that's exactly what's going on there. And, but if there was a war, the Taliban wouldn't stand a chance.
SW from Oregon. The West has been reporting that Russian arms exports have dropped nearly 70% over the past 11 years due to increased competition and poor performance in Syria and the Ukraine. Is this true? And can the Russian arms industry recover?
I can't say it's not true because I don't have access to the data. So I can't sit here and say, but poor performance. I don't know what kind of dope somebody's smoking. The Russian equipment's been performing in a wonderful fashion. What poor performance is there about Russian equipment? The Air Force is doing well. The aircraft are doing well. The weapons are performing well. If you take a look at, again, the Turks bought the S-400 air defense system. The Indians are buying the S-400 air defense system. The S-300 air defense system was bought by the Greeks. The Indians are buying aircraft. The Iranians are buying Russian aircraft. I don't know what this person's talking about. The Russian arms industry is doing quite well. And after the Ukraine conflict, I think you're going to see that some of the Russian tactical artillery systems are going to be very popular in the world today. So, no, I disagree. I don't know the sales figures, but they could be misleading because, 11 years ago, what we're talking 2012, what was going on in 2012, the Russians at that time were in the process of retooling their own military. So maybe they were spending more time building up their defense industry, using that to rebuild and retool, re-equip their own military. So there may have been a drop in arms sales. that represented an internal domestic reality that no longer is there. And so I just think that you can't compare a statistical drop in arms sales and somehow equate that to bad performance by Russian weaponry. Newsflash, the Russian weapons are doing pretty good. So no,